Hello, my name is Chelsey Carter, and I'm the owner and operator of Alex Carter, the brand. And today I will be hosting your workshop on minding your business. We are going to be covering the subjects of business structures, also the different business entities, managing your business as a sole proprietor, as well as we're going to touch on some if you're managing a team or partners, managing finances, as well as effective leadership styles and beneficial systems that you can start putting into place in order to increase your sustainability. Beginning first with the structure of your business, it is super important that you have a very strong and thorough business model. I use the business model generation book. They have 9 building blocks inside of this book that they break down very thoroughly and very easily understandable. Like you can comprehend it no matter what type of business you have. And they do break it down from everything from a small business on up to a franchise or corporation. So I do think that this book is highly recommended and can be helpful to you in your own business practices. Those 9 building blocks are customer segments, value propositions, channels, customer relationships, revenue streams, key resources, key activities, key partnerships, and cost structures. All 9 of those are going to be vital for you to be able to answer, but then also build upon over the course of your industry building or your business building. The 4 that I think are most vital and super important are customer segments, channels, customer relationships, as well as key partnerships. Those are the ones that I think are vital. So please buy the book, super helpful, highly recommended. Moving into the structure of your business. After diving deep into those 9 building blocks, it is incredibly important that your managing style is also highlighted here. And I always best serve my business by proposing questions. And if those questions cannot be answered, then I need to kind of go back and regroup and figure some things out, because the reason that you're even in a business is because you're providing an answer to a need of some sort. So figuring out ways to better your business always starts with questions to me. And in doing so with managing, what are the needs of what is needed and what is needed to be managed is how you would go about building an infrastructure for good business management, and how you would work that out, how or what systems can be implemented in order to develop successful practices, right? So what is needed to be managed? For my particular business, I have administrative, so that is all forms of communication. Those things need to be managed by me or by an intern or an assistant of sorts. Those communication channels for me are email, messaging anyone back on any sort of social media platform, or texting even. Social media is another form of communication for my specific brand, and web development. Those things all need to have some sort of structure of managing, whether it's weekly, daily, and what that communication looks like. Your products and your services will also need management, and what those product and services look like for Alex Carter are as follows. I have an alterations division of the services that I offer, teaching, lecturing, which is what we're learning and doing right now, and what type of managerial style needs to be applied to that. Products and services, obviously. When dealing with product development or product shots or any of those types of things, there are a number of things that go into that also need to be managed. Your pricing, your costs, your sourcing, pattern making, as well as your textile sourcing. There are more, but these are just a few that come up very frequently that I have to implement some sort of management in order to ensure the successes of that part of the division of my brand. The team. Are you a team or are you solo? That also needs to be managed. When you do work alone, which is what I've been doing, especially, with the pandemic and everything, the management part is super crucial because it is only you and you have to wear multiple hats. So it's super important that you implement and start to practice proper, effective, and beneficial systems. So when working alone, you can maximize your ability to keep the business afloat and make sure that you're crossing all of your T's and dotting all of your I's. When you're working in a team, are they reliable? And are they aware of their duties? And is this your problem? Because if they're not aware of their duties, then your delegation might need a little bit of help, right? Like if you have an assistant who is constantly asking you what and how they can support, then it's quite possible that you don't have an infrastructure of managing your assistants or managing the help or your team. It's super important that on a weekly basis, there are duties that are listed out, even if you get to some of them, where they can be of assistance to you. So writing those things out and getting an ironed out, motion of what is expected, what will be needed, and how can we tackle this together. Delegating is super hard to do, but it is possible. And it just kind of starts with assessing what needs to be done and who can handle what and in what time. Time management is the biggest component, I think, of being in business for yourself or partnering with someone in business ownership. It is how you learn how valuable you are, right? Because your time is worth money. Some structural components to amplify your productivity, which is your time management, are put all of your systems into place for yourself that you can ensure success. By this, I mean, schedule your days off. There's no reason to work around the clock and 7 days a week. I am still learning this, but it's becoming more easy to do. People think that being your own boss is super easy, and it is, but it also strongly is not. You have to be diligent, and you also have to be very structural, right? Because you can get lost in like, oh, I can take today off, or, oh, I can go out of town, or, whatever have you, but that isn't really the case. You give up working 40 hours a week for a job to easily work 80 for yourself. But there are systems that you can set into place in order to best serve yourself, because you cannot pour from an empty cup. And with that being said, that cup can mean your energy level, your productivity, your reliability, your creative scope, right? And how much you're even willing or inspired to make anything. You just can't pour from an empty cup. So it's very important to check in with yourself and make sure that you're being the best leader that you possibly can be for your team and for your brand. Invest in scheduling programs. I'm a huge fan of this. Google Calendar is super helpful for me. It implements a system that you are notified in a way that is much more manageable to me than iCal. It kind of shows you everything that you are going to need to do for the month or for the year. And you can also manage multiple accounts. So if you have multiple businesses, Google Calendar will show you all of the different companies and their agendas all in one app. So it's super helpful, and it's easier to use to me than iCalendar. You Can Book Me. YouCanBookMe.com is a service that is offered now where you can schedule pickups or appointments, or if you're, facilitating something like this, you can send this out to all of your instructors or your lecture givers and have them fill in their availability and the time slots. And then that will populate into your calendar. You do pay for the service, but again, it is super helpful to implement some sort of system where you are strengthened by your productivity levels. Canva versus Photoshop, right? All of us are at home and DIY figuring it out, especially in the beginning. I do know how to use the Adobe suites, but I find that why go into all of the extra additives of these layers, right? And all of the components that Photoshop gives you when you actually can just use Canva. The templates are very easy to use. They download to your phones immediately, and they already have some of the sizing components for your stories or your Instagram posts or like whatever have you. They also have animated ones now too, to make them fun and approachable as well as really catchy. So that is something that, again, you can maximize your productivity levels by just ixnaying added work that is really not needed in order to get the same result. Squarespace is another one that I think, for one, is super helpful. The templates are very easy to use. Their support staff is amazing in getting back to you and answering questions that you may have. We're not website designers. I know I didn't go to school for website development, and I'm learning graphic design as I go, but Squarespace is a very helpful tool in order for me to use in order to get my product out and create a database of information from returning and first-time clients. So I highly recommend Squarespace because it just is super easy to use for the not so computer savvy business owner. And then also make sure that you're cutting yourself off, right? Like I said earlier, there's no need for you to work 7 days a week, or, make a day and a week, make a day or a week for yourself. Like, take a weekend off, Saturdays and Sundays, Thursdays and Fridays. I like to take Mondays off. I'm coming right back in from the week, and sometimes Mondays can just be a really rough start for me. So I like to take Mondays off now, and I just recently made that switch because I just find that I'm more productive Tuesday through Saturday, or even Tuesday through Friday. You can build your own schedule, but make sure that it works for the brand, but that it's also working for you. Create auto replies for your social media responses. I literally came home from Project Runway and got a million of the same types of messages and realized that I didn't have any auto replies set up. So set them up and make them personal so that they are from you and your heart and they're not ingenuine, but maximize your time. Why sit and respond personally to over 200 people a day? Like, it just doesn't really make sense to do that. So setting that up saves you so much time. You'd be surprised. And then schedule 1 day a week to handle the following: content building, website development, communications, your scheduling. Create a schedule that works for you. You are your own boss, so there's no reason why your schedule shouldn't work for you, right? And by this, I mean, when scheduling meetings, don't make any at 8 a.m. if you know that you're a late riser. Make them at 10 a.m. Make it work for you. Like, there's absolutely no reason for you to not come out on top with your scheduling. And plan ahead. Like, always plan ahead. Social media posts, looking into the future for your seeds that you'd like to plant, right? And the communication and that curation of content, make it all be very seamless. So in six months from now, I would like to start hosting more public speaking events, keynote speeches, lectures like this, and workshops. So I'm planting seeds leading up to that. Hosting these, I have a YouTube channel. So now there's a string of events that will lead my audience to the same type of information. Like, I can go to her for clothes, but she's also willing to give back information and knowledge on how she created this business to be successful for her, right? Plan ahead, always plan ahead. And no dream is too big, and no partnership. Like, if you want to work for Nike or collaborate on a shoe with them, put that in your plan. Plan for that in 6 months to a year. Start figuring out ways and angles that your marketing strategy can encompass them approaching you for something, planning ahead absolutely is, a part of your time management, because it really speaks to the trajectory of where you see yourself. Okay, so next we're going to cover the business entities. There are 4 total, beginning first with the sole proprietorship, which is a single person in a business. Second is partnerships, where 2 or more individuals have agreed to share in profits of a business. Third, you have an LLC, which is a limited liability company, where it's a legal entity that separates you from the ownership of your business. And so what this means is, legally, you yourself, my Chelsey Carter, is not held liable legally. Alex Carter would be. So it just kind of distinguishes the difference, and you receive a certificate that states that is what that legal component is and what those entities are. I have an LLC, and it was very important that I do that because I don't want my personal name to be attached to my business entity. And so it is very important to distinguish the two. And there are tons of, you can also look this up online and also contact a lawyer if you need to, but becoming an LLC is very important for small businesses like myself, because you do just want to make sure that those things are distinguished. So lastly, we have corporation, which is the same as an LLC in that it separates you from the ownership of the business. And in this particular one, the owners are called shareholders. So those are the four infrastructures or entities of business structures. And that is where I think, it would be very wise for you to go back and look up those in detail. But for the time and the sake of the workshop today, I'm just going to touch on those and highlight the entity that I have and what I possess and where I can really speak to my experience on. So these are the four entities, and they are very resourceful, very helpful for you to learn on your own and on your own time, a lot more in-depth detail on those. But I am going to cover them and only speak on my experience in sole proprietorship and LLCing, because that is where my strength and my experience lies. And a lot of small businesses are the same. You file as a sole proprietor under your LLC. So your legal infrastructure is super simple. It is to find a lawyer. And contrary to popular belief, 90% of all freelance artists do have a lawyer. And that is because I think that there's always been this stigma around lawyers being in suits and, out to get you for these legal fees and use all of this legal jargon that you are very unaware of. Well, that is not the case. There are a lot of lawyers that wear sweatpants to work and wear hoodies to work. And they are willing and able to make sure that you are legally, you have a legal foundation that strengthens your knowledge on what you are getting yourself into. And they're literally paid to make sure that you can sustain any legal document presented before you. And that you're also just aware of the components of any contractual agreement and what that looks like. They also are paid, most of them are paid percentages of what you make. So naturally, they're not going to stiff themselves, because that's also how they get paid. Some of them are stipend and some of them are on retainer. So it's just really important for you to find one that serves you and your business, because it is super important to have them around and just on speed dial for instances of a partnership or a collaboration that you could be approaching. It's important to have one for the reasons of contractual writing and drafting for you. Representation, should you be needed to be in court for whatever reason, they would need to be present with you. Legal jargon, for you to understand the legal communication that is sent over by a major corporation or a contract or whatever have you. Those percentages, their contracts are literally designed for you to not understand. So lawyers went to school for that. That's why they were able to get their degree. They understand it is the language that they speak. So contacting them to better your knowledge on that would be wise. Document review or contract review. And so that, just think about that and get in touch with any artist I'm sure that you may know, and I'm pretty sure that they either know of a lawyer or can put you in touch with one. So with this being said, your intellectual property is very important, and it is where a lawyer would come into play. Having a great idea is one thing, but being able to protect it is another, right? So your intellectual property is the ownership of your ideas and whatever it is that you're creating. This is also known in the legal world as your trademarks, your copywriting, and ultimately your LLC. And your lawyers will be able to help you make sure that those things are docked, patenting and things like that. So I have a trademark, and I also have an LLC. So, and I had to contact a lawyer in order for me to get those things done, because I didn't know much about it. So I had to make myself aware and then make sure that I was covered legally. Are you entering into deals without contracts? And if so, why? Collaborations should always have a contract involved, even if it's your best friend from middle school that you're going into business with. And I say this because things go awry, and that relationship can, dismantle, and you can no longer be friends with somebody just because you added business into you all's relationship, right? So super important to have contracts because they help you legally, and you have it in writing what that agreement was, what the percentage and duty breakdown is, and it just makes everything much more smooth in order to even handle financial breakdowns when filing taxes or when payouts are ready to, and it just gives you an overall understanding of the relationship that you're stepping into with this person. Stylists, if you are a designer and stylists are pulling pieces from you, have them sign waivers, protect yourself in all aspects of your business. So then next we are going to move into your tools for finance managing. This one is pretty, obviously it's very important, but there are multiple different fields and industries where your tools for finance managing will be different. I'm only going to speak on behalf of Alex Carter, the brand, and the systems that I have in place that work for me. Squarespace has a payout system or program called Stripe, where they already have tools into place where you can pull your analytics, you can pull your reports and see how much you made for one product during 1 month, and even the gender that purchased it, and the area that it came from. So they have programs now where these analytics have become, they've figured out ways for the infrastructures of the analytics, it can be much more understandable and also really good for record keeping. I use that and it has been super helpful. QuickBooks is another one. They break down all of the money, like costs and revenue, the money in, the money out, and it also readies your tax documents. You do have to pay for QuickBooks, but it is very important that you do have it if you have a product-based business like myself. Record keeping. When it comes time to file your taxes, keeping envelopes of January, next envelope February, with the year on it, with all of your receipts is super important when it comes to filing your taxes. Being in business for yourself, taxes filing can be scary, but if you have record of it and you take it to a tax service business and you have all of your documents, all of your your W-9s and all of the different freelance and contractual work that you've been doing over the year, it's very easy to do. You give them their fee for handling the legwork for you, and you have an account where you can go back and look on that in 2-3 years from now. And it's just really important to, keep record of all of the different costs and all of your different expenses and all of your different profits throughout the year in a very organized manner, because it just makes it easier. You will want to file according to your business entity, as we went over before. I know that most of you are aware when you file your taxes, it does ask you, are you filing as a sole proprietor? Are you filing as an LLC, a corporation, or a partnership? I always file as a sole proprietor because that is what I am. I'm a single person in a business. So your filing, entities are going to be based on the infrastructure of how you started your company legally. So you're going to want to definitely look into that and make sure that however you file is how you set up the infrastructure legally of your business entity. And if you have a team, are they on payroll? And if they are on payroll, that is something that you will have to add to your tax information. How much you're paying them? Are you insuring them? Do you lease a place like a business or a storefront, a salon, a barber shop, or whatever? All of those things become tax write-offs. Whatever upkeep is required for you to maintain your business is considered a tax write-off. And if that is taking an Uber to a meeting, that is a tax write-off. If you have a dinner with a client, that receipt for that bill is a tax write-off. So on the front end, yes, you will be, paying for it out of your business account or even your personal account. Then you can take that receipt and apply it to the write-offs that you are allowed to use for your taxes. So again, keep track. It's super important that you keep track of everything. So in honor of full transparency, I like to tell people real life experiences and how I am currently and presently like applying the things that I'm learning in my business and how that looks, right? So all of these tools have been, I'm sure, going to be, I hope to be very helpful for you in your own business endeavors at home. But I do want to touch on, because this is a pandemic and we're even having to do this virtually because of that reason. So it would be, silly of me not to touch on that for you to, really take away something from this, right? So managing your business under hard times. I'll use mine at first as an example. Because the world basically shut down for like a few months, and it is still, it isn't completely open right now. It kind of made me first and foremost a little sad by how quickly, my business was not able to maintain itself, and how quickly I was also not inspired to continue to maintain it. I gave myself a week and I devised a plan. That plan was to stand strong in the beliefs that I have and the support group that I have, and the fans and the supporters and the buyers and everybody else who wants to support this brand and its success. I quickly figured out that, from being on Project Runway, where I was on top for one of the challenges in upcycling, to use that to my advantage, right? If I was on top for that one, then why not come back and, adapt a model of something that I do have access to since stores are closed, to make something really cool, exciting, and inventive. So I literally just started making upcycled t-shirts from, 8 different shirts, making it one item. And it's having all types of vintage notes like Star Trek or South Park or, different Motown bands or whatever, have you. And they literally took off, like skyrocketed beyond anything I could have ever imagined. And I started to sell them out instantly, like not even within an hour. And then I realized that there was a market for it and that I needed to make sure that I had the product and inventory to back that market. Takes a great deal of time to do that, but it was something that, I was able to do and sell and help in sustaining the brand. And it also set me apart from the other competitors or cast members on the show. Nobody else from the show, since being home and under the pandemic, is doing that. So while the world is watching everyone that was on the show, I removed myself from the category and was offering something very new and exciting. And I used my time on the show to propel that idea. So this is something that you can definitely adapt and apply to your own business models or your products and services, and just figure out a way. Because upcycling is not new, right? If it's not broke, don't fix it. So I didn't really invent anything new, but I did invent the way in which I was delivering it and how it would be received from that person who I was marketing it to. So that's super important. Some examples of some companies that I think have done a very fine job at sustaining under these really hard times are Amazon, as well as Uber Eats. Amazon, for the main reason of owning all of their own manufacturing, and all of their, distribution channels. They own everything. They're also online only. There are no Amazon, like you can't go to an Amazon store, not that I'm aware of at least. So they are in full control of everything. So they don't have to rely on a different company in order to, sustain or continue moving in the cycle of their, distribution of their products, which I think is exceptionally smart. And it is something, even though I'm not a mass produced company, that I am absolutely striving to achieve as well in my own small business practices, because you never want to put yourself in a position to require someone else in order for it to sustain. Is my company like that right now? No, but it is something that I definitely want to grow to acquire. Uber Eats is another. They started, lowering their delivery rates and highlighting only Black owned, for the first so long. And I think they might even still be doing it, highlighting only Black owned restaurants on their homepage, and as a Black woman and a Black business owner, I thought that was incredibly, inclusive and smart of them to do, because now as a Black woman, I now know of more restaurants that I would love to support. So even on nights that I had groceries, I still wanted to go back in and make sure that, my household was supporting that. And I thought that that was very clever of them to do that. There were a lot of companies and restaurants within Uber Eats that never offered delivery. You had to come in only, and they didn't take reservations. They then became Uber Eats customers and clients. Some of my favorite restaurants are now available for delivery. So they figured out how to adapt with it and not let them hold them back. And I think that that is the most important component of this. Like, how do you propel yourself forward? Everybody is getting caught into this and drawn into the effects of this pandemic. What can you do to make sure that, you're still moving with the times? And how are you adapting your business model to speak to global pandemics, And because I think that that is ultimately how you effectively grow from pandemics and, global situations that are like natural disasters that are out of our control. And it also speaks to the sustainability of of your company. So it's super important I'm happy that in a lot of ways that this pandemic, not for the people that have passed from it and all of the families that are affected by it, but that it has caused us to pause and really think about the integrity behind our brand's morale and the messages that we're sending in the products and services that we're offering. So I think that, and that brings me to, my next point, your brand awareness. What are you making your customers aware of in the content of your business? And is it something that you are proud of morally for the company? And I for one am super transparent. I aim to be transparent in everything I do because I am a self-run business and I do not have a separate account on social media. It's me and it's me. That's it. And I made that decision consciously. But the brand awareness that I make my people aware of the products and services that I'm offering, but I also make them aware of when I'm having a bad day or when it's a struggle moment for me and why, I'm struggling by, the effects of the civil unrest right now. And that's something that as a Black business owner, a Black female business owner, I do need to make my customers aware of because I'm human first. And, the initiative that I just finished with the BWAE, which is Black Women Are Essential campaign that I did with a friend of mine, we launched it in efforts to support Black women who are essential workers. And we relaunched it because everybody wanted, to support it and gave half of the proceeds to Breonna Taylor's family's fund on her birthday as a gift to her, even though she is no longer with us, to raise awareness about, the alignment of us wanting her to have justice for her murder, So it's like, what ideas are you, implementing? What ideas and conceptual notes are you offering to your customers? And what is the messaging of your brand awareness? And have you even given it any thought? And if you have, does it make sense? These are questions that you can ask yourself. So yes, I hope that all of the content that I've given and information that I've shared will be helpful to you and your business practices and your business managing. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. If you don't feel comfortable, asking now, then reach out and ask later. So take care and good luck.